Johnny, in all the things that you got from Zulu culture, you highlighted this once, that there was something very magical about being a man. And I wondered, how's that shaped you as a father? You've been blessed with 2 boys.
Yes.
You and your wife, Jenny.
Yes. I grew up without a father until I was 7, and then I got a stepfather until I was about 14. So I had 7 years of a male figure. He was a young man. He was, you know, and our relationship was more like brotherly than father and son. And he was a very magical person in his own way. He was also discovering who he was. He was going through that early young manhood thing. The beauty about it is that he trusted me, and he would sometimes offload on me about things that were happening at the office, or things, terrible things that he had seen or whatever. And so I didn't really have a sense of how fathers should behave or how fathers should, what's the fatherhood plan? How does it work? I read a book. I can't remember the author, but the book is called Black Dogs. Gosh. Anyway, in it there, he also had his parents disappear out of his life at a young age. And he describes how by fathering his children, he fathered himself. And when I read that sentence, it struck me like a blow.
Positively.
Positively. I took that as my credo. That as I wanted to have had a father in the way that I wanted a father and yearned for my father, I will father the son and father myself.
You've spoken about your firstborn son, Jesse. Let's talk a little bit about your other son,
Yes,
Jaron.
yes.
He made a music video for your song, Take My Heart Away.
Yes.
How special was that? Because he's been in LA for a long time, so you wouldn't have had the daily, weekly connectedness.
Yes. He came back from America when I was sick, and when all of this was going on, he had just finished the Vancouver Film School degree and came back here, and 2016 my publisher wanted to put out new music, my old music but dancified actually. Right. So I asked Jaron, I said, come on, do a video for me. Do a video for your dad, you know.
It's nice to be able to ask that.
Yeah. And I said, just choose one of the songs here. And he chose Take My Heart Away. And he came up with that concept, which was beautiful, really amazing.
Young kid getting into...
Young township kid having a dream of becoming an astronaut. I mean, it is so... the distance of that possibility. And it works out. You know, it's such an uplifting video. And so... and he's doing now the one for King of Time currently. He's busy editing. He's just shot it. So yes, he and Jesse are separated by 7 years, and he wanted to go into the film business, film industry, and so he's very articulate and very focused, he's very curious about the world, and that is the key. Is you have to be curious, and it has to come
where
naturally.
you got that from.
Yeah. You got to be, you got to be naturally curious about things.
Yeah.
So, and those are very strong qualities.
Johnny, you've done hundreds of concerts. How special was the one in Frankfurt in 1999 when Madiba joined you on stage for Simbonanga? And I asked that with one particular thing in mind. You were in Rome and stuck in a long tour when Nelson Mandela was released, and from what I've read, that was the beginning of quite a traumatic and difficult time for you. Did that make up for it at least? Yeah.
We were touring Germany as Savuka. It was Johnny Clegg. We were. It was 1997, I think.
Okay.
I'm not certain. And we were contacted by somebody representing the German government to say that there's this NGO conference about getting all the NGOs in certain parts of Africa to work together. It's a 3-day conference, and would you please come and close, if you could manage it on your tour, fit it in and close. We've got a 2,000-seater, and the conference is over. Would you come close it for us? And we could.
Yeah.
So we went and we closed it. I did the show, and I always finished with Simbonanga, and was playing the song, first verse, and we got into the chorus, and the crowd roared.
You thought I must be doing brilliantly.
I thought, they know my song. This is amazing. So,
Yes.
I really gave it my all. And then in the middle of the second verse, they did it again. And I thought, that's weird. And I turned around, and Nelson Mandela was walking on stage with my backing vocalist, Mandisa. She was holding him, walking on. And it was just a breathtaking moment for me. I wrote that song in 1986 during the state of emergency, 11 years before. And as a songwriter, that is the pinnacle of my writing career.
Okay.
Yeah, that moment is the pinnacle, because I had made a song which said we can't see him. Again, seeing. Asimbonanga, we've never seen him. I'm the generation, whether you don't like him or not, I was looking for something which would unite everybody. Whether you were extreme right-wing or Pan-African or ZAPO or ANC or UDF, whatever you were, what do we all share about this man? None of us have seen him. That's what we all have in common as South Africans. And that's what I latched onto. Asimbonanga, we've never seen him. To have a picture of Mandela in that time, it was a banned picture. It was a banned, you could go to jail. So I wrote that as a kind of an expression of the fact that this person who is seems to me to be the one who's going to lead us out of this, lead us out the desert. A Moses-like figure, actually. But he had to cross the water first. He had to get off Robben Island, and he had to come onto the mainland. And as long as he was on that island, we were all islands. There's the fragmentation thing again working.
Yes.
So I could never, it never could ever possibly be, when I wrote that song, that one day in a foreign country, I would be on tour.
On an unscheduled
gig.
Yeah.
And he would, because he was the keynote speaker at the conference. I didn't know that. And he would walk on the stage and sing it with me and say the most beautiful thing. Music makes me at peace with the world and at peace with myself.
John, you've always commented in your work, in your deeds, in your music about the state of South Africa. Was the time after Mandela's release one of the most difficult that you ever dealt with? Because that unleashed ferocious battles that were characterized as
Yes.
ANC versus IFP.
Yes.
But from your life in the hostels was something much more profound. Was that one of the most difficult times of your life?
For me. Hostel dwellers were often press ganged into activities. Buses would arrive, and the senior Inkatha, or we call it Umpati Wensizwa, a war captain, would get all and say, everybody on the bus, anyone who's not on the bus, don't pack your bags and leave, because you're not one of us.
Yes.
And then they would go off and they would go into Sebokeng, and they would do something that, it would be just a terrible thing to be involved in. And then I made a statement which was published in The Citizen. I was in France. There was an attack, I think, in Kagiso by impis coming out the hostel, and they slaughtered people. And I said, this is unacceptable. This is not political behavior. There's something else underlying it. There's something that's not right here. And when I got back to South Africa, I was told by my Zulu buddies. They tipped me off. They said, you know, you are persona non grata now here. You know, you don't come around. So I was now in no man's land. These are people that I'd grown up with from the age of 14.
Yeah.
You know,
and you knew the complexity of what they were facing.
Yeah, and so it was just a very, very. And then of course Dudu was murdered, and I have a lot of friends who were murdered in the political violence, and I have a lot of people who I know who participated in it, which is hard for me to
people you loved.
Yeah, so it was a very, very difficult time, and I went through the death of Dudu and that interregnum between the system that won't die, and so the new one can't be born. That 4 years, 1990 to 94. Crushed my band and crushed me. And in 1994 we disbanded. It was just too much. I wrote, the last album was released in 93, Heat, Dust and Dreams. And in that album there's a lot of that sentiment that comes across.
Johnny, all of us at some time will be ancestors.
Yes.
And there's a strong set of beliefs in Zulu tradition around ancestors. What kind of ancestor will you be?
You know,
or would you wish to be?
All ancestors should be a source of auspiciousness and good fortune. All ancestors should guard their offspring and guard the ones they left behind. They should take care and be connected, which is hard for them, because they're in another place. So they have to be reminded. And so the living must remember the dead. And they do that through real rituals. And say, we are still here, and you must look after us, and you must, abide with us, and don't go wandering off somewhere and forget about us. So, and that's the tension of extended families. How do families keep together? How do they? And it's usually because there is some senior member that's just got that magic, that people can gather around and keep things going and keeping together. So that's the kind of ancestor I'd like to be.
Johnny, I'm going to finish by giving you 3 wishes. No power at all to grant them, but here they go. First of all, what's your wish for your family and your dear friends?
Health, very important. We take health for granted. Community and purpose, to find purpose, because without purpose, being alive is pointless. One has to find that passion and that purpose. Also to find it in your heart to take different points of view and perspectives, because every human being is unique. That's been a hard thing for me to, So those are the things I wish for them, to have those qualities and to have those experiences.
What's your wish for our country?
Our country's going, because we live short lives. Countries live, for a long time. We are born into a situation, and then we are part of the problem or the solution at some point. So countries go through seasons. Summer, winter, spring, autumn, and we're in a winter. I wish for us to find our way through the winter and to find inala, the first green shoots of spring that they can start developing, and the young green shoots of spring is the generation, the new generations. It's the youth. And I wish for the youth of our country to have exposure to good education, to dream their dreams, to find that purpose, because a country without that is lost. We are our youth.
Last of all, what's your wish for yourself?
to have a good dotage in my old age, and to find peace with my own paradoxes, to be a source of abundance, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, in my own family and for my friends, and I suppose to stay around long enough, because I find the world very exciting at the moment. I think it's an incredibly, we're on the cusp of something at every level, you know, from medical, technologically, you know, from automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, to molecular biology. All of these things which are flourishing, you know, in this crazy political environment, you know. It's a very, very, I think this will be a determining moment in the world, not just in South Africa.
Johnny Clegg, many thanks for sharing so much with us on Under the Skin.
Thank you.